Flamingo Books. Shining English Reader Series 8. Chapter 3. A Dog's Tale. It was such a charming home, my new one, a fine great house, and the spacious grounds around it, and the great garden, noble trees, and flowers, no end. And I was the same as a member of the family, and they loved me, and petted me, and did not give me a new name, but called me by my old one that was dear to me because my mother had given it to me, Aileen Mavourneen. Mrs. Gray was 30, and so sweet and so lovely, you cannot imagine it, and Sadie was 10, and just like her mother, just a darling slender little copy of her, with auburn tails down her back, and short frocks, and the baby was a year old, and plump and dimped, and fond of me, and never could get enough of hauling on my tail, and hugging me, and laughing out its innocent happiness. And Mr. Gray was 38, and tall and slender, businesslike, prompt, decided and unsentimental. He was a renowned scientist. I do not know what the word means, but my mother would know how to use it and get effects. The laboratory was not a book, or a picture, or a place to wash your hands in. No, that is the lavatory. The laboratory is quite different, and is filled with jars, and bottles, and electrics, and wires, and strange machines, and every week other scientists came there and sat in the place, and used the machines, and discussed, and made what they called experiments and discoveries, and often I came, too, and stood around and listened, and tried to learn, although it was a pain to me, realizing I was gaining nothing at all. Other times I lay on the floor in the mistress's workroom and slept, she gently using me for a footstool, knowing it pleased me, for it was a caress. Other times I spent an hour in the nursery, and got well tousled and made happy. Other times I watched by the crib there, when the baby was asleep and the nurse out for a few minutes on the baby's affairs. Other times I romped and raced through the grounds and the garden with Sadie till we were tired out, then slumbered on the grass in the shade of a tree while she read her book. Other times I went visiting among the neighborhood dogs. The servants in our house were all kind to me and were fond of me, and so, as you see, mine was a pleasant life. There could not be a happier dog than I was, nor a more grateful one. I will say this for myself, for it is only the truth. I tried in all ways to do well and right, and honor my mother's memory and her teachings, and earn the happiness that had come to me, as best I could. By and by came my little puppy, and then my cup was full, my happiness was perfect. It was the dearest little waddling thing, and so smooth and soft and velvety, and such affectionate eyes, and such a sweet and innocent face, and it made me so proud to see how the children and their mother adorned it, and fondled it, and exclaimed over every little wonderful thing it did. It did seem to me that life was just too lovely. Then came the winter. One day, I was standing a watch in the nursery. That is to say, I was asleep on the bed. The baby was asleep in the crib, which was alongside the bed, on the side next to the fireplace. It was the kind of crib that has a lofty tent over it made of gauzy stuff that you can see through. The nurse was out, and we two sleepers were alone. A spark from the wood fire shot out, and it lit on the slope of the tent. I suppose a quiet interval followed, then a scream from the baby awoke me, and there was that tent flaming up toward the ceiling. Before I could think, I sprang to the floor in my fright, and in a second was halfway to the door. But in the next half second my mother's farewell was sounding in my ears, and I was back on the bed again. I reached my head through the flames and dragged the baby out by the waistband, and tugged it along, and we fell to the floor together in a cloud of smoke. I snatched a new hold, and dragged the screaming little creature along and out at the door and around the bend of the hall, and was still tugging away, all excited and happy and proud, when the master's voice shouted, "Begone, you cursed beast!" And I jumped to save myself, but he was furiously quick, and chased me up, striking furiously at me with his cane, I dodging this way and that, in terror, and at last a strong blow fell upon my left foreleg, which made me shriek and fall, for the moment, helpless. The cane went up for another blow, but never descended, for the nurse's voice rang wildly out, "The nursery's on fire, and the master rushed away in that direction, and my other bones were saved. The pain was cruel, but no matter, I must not lose any time, he might come back at any moment. So I limped on 3 legs to the other end of the hall, where there was a dark little stairway leading up into a place where old boxes and such things were kept, as I had heard them say, and where people seldom went. I managed to climb up there, then I searched my way through the dark among the piles of things, and hid in the secretest place I could find. It was foolish to be afraid there, yet still I was, so afraid that I held in and hardly even whimpered, though it would have been such a comfort to whimper, because that eases the pain, you know, but I could lick my leg, and that did some good. For half an hour there was a commotion downstairs, and shoutings, and rushing footsteps, and then there was quiet again. Quiet for some minutes, and that was grateful to my spurt, for then my fears began to go down, and fears are worse than pains, oh, much worse. Then came a sound that froze me. They were calling me by name, hunting for me. I thought it would never stop. But at last it did. Hours and hours after the vague twilight of the place had long ago been blotted out by black darkness. Then in that blessed stillness my terrors fell little by little away, and I was at peace and slept. It was a good rest I had, but I woke before the twilight had come again. I was feeling fairly comfortable, and I could think out a plan now. I made a very good one, which was, to creep down, all the way down the back stairs, and hide behind the cellar door, and slip out and escape when the iceman came at dawn, while he was inside filling the refrigerator. Then I would hide all day, and start on my journey when night came. My journey to, well, anywhere where they would not know me and betray me to the master. I was feeling almost cheerful now. Then suddenly I thought, why, what would life be without my puppy? That was despair. Then the calling began again. They called and called, days and nights, it seemed to me. So long that the hunger and thirst nearly drove me mad, and I recognized that I was getting very weak. When you are this way you sleep a great deal, and I did. Once I woke in an awful fright. It seemed to me that the calling was right there in the place. And so it was. It was Sadie's voice, and she was crying. My name was falling from her lips all broken, poor thing, and I could not believe my ears for the joy of it when I heard her say, "Come back to us, oh, come back to us, and forgive. It is all so sad without our." I broke in with such a grateful little yelp, and the next moment Sadie was plunging and stumbling through the darkness and the lumber and shouting for the family to hear, "She's found, she's found." Pretty soon it was spring, and sunny and pleasant and lovely, and the sweet mother and the children patted me and the puppy goodbye, and went away on a journey and a visit to their kin, and the master wasn't any company for us, but we played together and had good times, and the servants were kind and friendly, so we got along quite happily and counted the days and waited for the family. And one day, those men came again and said, "Now for the test," and they took the puppy to the laboratory, and I limped 3-leggedly along, too, feeling proud, for any attention shown to the puppy was a pleasure to me, of course. They discussed and experimented, and then suddenly the puppy shrieked, and they set him on the floor, and he went staggering around, with his head all bloody, and the master clapped his hands and shouted, "There, I've won, confess it. He's as blind as a bat." And they all said, "It's so you've proved your theory, and suffering humanity owes you a great debt from henceforth," and they crowded around him, and wrung his hand cordially and thankfully, and praised him. But I hardly saw or heard these things, for I ran at once to my little darling, and snuggled close to it where it lay, and licked the blood, and it put its head against mine, whimpering softly, and I knew in my heart it was a comfort to it in its pain and trouble to feel its mother's touch, though it could not see me. Then it dropped down, presently, and its little velvet nose rested upon the floor, and it was still, and did not move any more. Soon the master stopped discussing a moment, and rang in the footman, and said, "Bury it in the far corner of the garden." When the footman had finished and covered little Robin up, He patted my head, and there were tears in his eyes, and he said, "Poor little doggy, you saved his child." I have watched 2 whole weeks, and he doesn't come up. This last week of fright has been stealing upon me. I think there is something terrible about this. I do not know what it is, but the fear makes me sick, and I cannot eat, though the servants bring me the best of flood, and they pet me so, and even come in the night, and cry, and say, "Poor doggy. Do give it up and come home. Don't break our hearts." And all this terrifies me the more, and makes me sure something has happened. And I am so weak, since yesterday I cannot stand on my feet anymore. And within this hour the servants, looking toward the sun where it was sinking out of sight and the night chill coming on, said things I could not understand, but they carried something cold to my heart. Those poor creatures. They do not suspect. They will come home in the morning, and eagerly ask for the little doggy that did the brave deed, and who of us will be strong enough to say the truth to them? The humble little friend is gone where go the beasts that perish.